Artificial intelligence is becoming more and more of a thing in our daily lives, from deepfake videos to smartphones, from productivity tools to smart home assistants. The list is endless. And in this video, I'm going to discuss how artificial intelligence could start to be used inside theme parks. Now, some of these examples exist today, and I suspect they're just going to enhance over time. Some of them, however, are theoretical. So let's get into it. So one of the things that artificial intelligence could definitely be used for, and is already starting to be used for, is a personalised experience within the park. We all go to a theme park for escapism, whether it is riding that roller coaster or immersing ourselves in some new land. But to have it as a tailored experience just for us is taking that to the next level, and that is where AI can come in. Now, there's some examples of this already. If you look into Galaxy's Edge over in Disney, they're using your smartphone, the data pad, and they can start interacting with you, and then, making that a bit more personalized. When I was over in Efteling, and I'm there this week, they have really, really clever technology where the talking tree in the Fairyland forest knows who you are.
Excuse me, Grish, if I'm not mistaken, it's your birthday soon.
So I suspect as time goes on, we're going to see more and more of these personalised experiences. Again, we all have one of these in our pocket. It knows so much about us, and as AI starts to pick up that information, it'll feed those experiences and tailor everything to us, so that you may be in a queue with 100 other people, but you all are having that unique experience. Now on the other side, you've got crowd management, and this is an area where AI can take lots of data about the park, whether it's historical data, predicted data, etc., and try and anticipate where the crowds will be and do what it can to try and suggest people go to different rides or different shows, etc. You can already see this. This is basically what Disney attempted to do with Genie. Now, I would say that it's still got a way to go. It isn't quite there yet, but it is trying to guide you to different experiences and basically spread the load. It's a little bit like what Google Maps does, for example. Quite often, it'll divert two different people in different directions, because if it took everyone the same way, suddenly you'd have a traffic jam. So it's the same thing with the theme parks. They're just trying to spread things out. The problem with theme parks, though, is that they're going to have an issue with the human element. Just because AI tells you, hey, why don't you go and ride this roller coaster over here? If you're not in the mood for that and you want to do something else, then you're not going to listen to it. So again, as that gets more personalized to the first point and starts to understand your likes and dislikes, it can tailor that to you, so that there's a higher probability that you will actually be guided by this assistant. And then if they can do that, they are basically spreading out that load, and then you don't have rides with 2-hour queues and another ride with a 10-minute queue, unless of course the 10-minute ride is rubbish. AI can't solve that. Now, one that interests me particularly is ride design. Now, as we get further and further on with theme parks, obviously they're pushing the boundaries more and more. I mean, you take a look at Falcon's Flight out in Qiddiya, that thing is bonkers, 600 and odd feet. I mean, it is just crazy, crazy. But there are obviously some of the more traditional limits that we've stopped pushing, like Smiler hit 14 inversions. Nobody's tried to beat that. The tallest, okay, well, I've just mentioned the tallest, but the fastest, the longest, those things are no longer the things people want. They want that exciting experience, whether it's just a clever selection of elements put together. Hyperia, which I still have not ridden, it is a short ride, but the majority of people still feel it is a very, very good ride, because rides don't have to be super long to be enjoyable. They just need to be entertaining and fun and adrenaline rush and all that kind of good stuff. Now, obviously, we have lots of experts in the industry who work for all the different manufacturers and ride those designs? No, they design those rides. But that said, they are using computer modeling to do all this, and I suspect if they're not already doing it, they will soon be adding in AI to try and help with that, whether it is sort of smoothing out the designs and the profiles a little bit, whether it is pushing the boundaries and coming up with more extreme elements that the human body can still manage. So I suspect AI will become more and more of an important part in the ride design process. Now, depending on what park you are in, it may or may not be busy to get to guest services, right? I mean, if you go to the big parks like Disney and Universal, they have a ton of guests, and I suspect that their guest services are quite busy. Smaller parks maybe less so, and that is another area where AI could come in. Now, many of you, myself included, have probably used chatbots online, and they're typically frustrating experiences because they're just pre-canned responses to like 10 questions, and then you're stuck and you have to go and speak to a human, so they kind of seem a bit pointless. However, that is changing, and if you see some of the newest stuff from OpenAI, their chat assistant is frighteningly good and frighteningly realistic.
Hey, ChatGPT, how are you doing?
I'm doing fantastic. Thanks for asking. How about you?
Pretty good.
What's up?
So my friend Barrett here, he's been having trouble sleeping lately. And I want you to tell him a bedtime story about robots and love.
Oh, a bedtime story about robots and love? I got you covered.
If you load that up with information about the park, whether it is the ride lineup, the times, prices, all that kind of stuff, all the information that you'd probably find in the FAQs but nobody looks at, then you're going to have that virtual assistant on your phone, probably as part of their app, that will be a good substitute for guest services. Now, before anyone panics, this is not me suggesting that we replace jobs with AI. However, I do think that in this case it could supplement the physical guest service experience, making that a little bit less painful for everybody. A key part of every theme park is ride maintenance, and obviously all parks are very good at this and they inspect those rides on a daily basis, both the trains, the tracks, all that kind of good stuff. Now all those components on that ride have a shelf life and a manufacturer will kind of specify when those should be replaced. This is where AI can come in though, because it should be able to look ahead and predicted load in the park. This is going to be a busy day, quiet day, the weather's looking terrible on this day, etc. and anticipate roughly how many cycles each attraction is going to run on a given day. Is it a 2-train service, a 3-train service, etc. and get a good feel for how long it will be until key components are needing replaced. More importantly, it will also be able to predict ordering those parts to make sure the park is not caught short, because there's nothing worse than when we go to a ride and it is down because of maintenance. And if that's just because somebody forgot to order a part, well, that's frustrating. So I think AI could definitely help in this area and make it more streamlined for the mechanics. Improving immersion in the ride queues is another area where AI could come in handy. Now, it's quite common these days to see animatronics in some of the bigger parks, not just during the ride, but even in that queue itself. If you look at Voltron over in Europa Park, they have a nice Nikola Tesla animatronic.
Eric, did you see that? This energy, this pure force, like a sudden, powerful Nivera storm.
Now, I believe, I'm not sure if this is running yet, but I'm sure the Mac family said that the plan is to actually embed AI into that animatronic so that it is fully interactive with the guests in the queue. And the key thing there is that it will also be multilingual. So whilst you're in that queue, you can be asking it some questions and getting more and more immersed into that attraction. An area that I think is positive, and I'm sure some of the cynics in the audience will disagree with me on this one, is that AI could be used from a sustainability point of view and improving the efficiency of the park. And that could be simple things like managing their power consumption or their waste, or predicting, again, looking at what the expected guest flow is likely to be and predicting buying the right number of burgers and all that kind of stuff to minimize waste. The key thing there is obviously we are helping the planet, which I'm sure nobody disagrees with, but it will also save the park some money. I think that's where the cynics will come in, because for me, if the park is saving money, there's two things they could do. The first one is lower that gate price. Probably unlikely, let's be fair. The second thing is they could take that money and reinvest it back into the park, either to enhance existing attractions or to bring upon new attractions. Don't get me wrong, if a park starts making money, they're going to take a little bit more profit. However, if it is sufficient that it is, making them a lot more money, then it seems only logical that they're going to invest a chunk of that money back in. So if AI can reduce the waste in a park and save them some money, then theoretically we all win. Right, so there's one that, full transparency, I actually used AI to help with some of the ideas for this video about AI. It's a little bit kind of Inception-like. But one of the suggestions that it had was around augmented reality. Now, just a little bit of background, some people may not know the difference between virtual reality and augmented reality. Virtual reality is something like they had on Galactica in Alton Towers or Derren Brown's Ghost Train in Thorpe Park, neither of which were particularly popular with guests and didn't last very long. And that is basically where you put on a full headset and the real world is obscured and you're replaced with this virtual world effectively. Augmented reality, on the flip side, is a lot better than that in that you still see the physical surroundings, but there is an overlay on top. A ride that does this right now is the Mario Kart ride over in Universal, where you've got these kind of glasses on and it's projecting things onto that glass. So you'll see, if it's simulating Mario, they'll be like throwing the bananas or throwing the shells, etc. And that enhancing that experience. An example that I thought of that would be fantastic is, could you imagine if you were on a ghost train, right? And AI it's clever enough to identify the audience, right? So it's like, okay, the wearer of this headset is a 10-year-old child, or the wearer of this headset is a 40-year-old man. And also be able to read your facial expressions to identify if you're bored or if you're terrified. And it could customize that experience very, very personalized to you. So that 10-year-old child could be going around the ghost train and seeing cartoon-style ghosts popping out from different elements, whereas the 40-year-old man could be seeing much more horror-themed monsters in the same thing. Same attraction, but two completely different experiences tailored to that user through the use of augmented reality. Personally, I think that is fantastic. And again, that is where AI can help, because it'll know enough information about the person to tailor that experience. All right, I have to confess on this one, and probably many of you that are watching this are in the same boat, is that I am not the most multilingual person. I kind of speak English. You can judge that yourself. But I can pidgin speak German and Italian, but that's about it. So when I visit these international parks, understandably those attractions are in the native tongue. And for the most part, that's not a problem. You know, if it's like safety instructions, it'll either be subtitled or it will say it in multiple languages. But there are plenty of examples where there is a backstory to the ride that is only in the native tongue, right? An example, Efteling, which I'm going to next week. You go on Villa Volta, their Madhouse, there's a 10-minute pre-show where they are talking in the native tongue. And I did not understand a single word of that.
Ene vervloekte avond in de Belgische Kempen. De zon stond laag en we zochten bedden voor de nacht.
So I had no backstory to that ride. I went in, didn't know anything about it. Whereas with AI, you're already starting to see AI-powered real-time translation. I think is it the Pixel Buds or the Samsung Buds, one of the two in your ear that are in real time translating the audio that you are hearing. So if you were then able to go to an international park and experience it in your native language, you'll be able to immerse yourself further into that ride and you will get a lot more out of it. So yeah, I think real-time language translation from AI is definitely one I'm looking forward to. So this one might be a little scary to some, a little bit kind of Orwellian, shall we say. AI is, I mean, listen, it can do a ton of things, but one of them is it can predict health issues, right? I mean, you see that now with smartwatches, they're starting to put algorithms in there so they can detect that you're subject, you're likely to fall because your legs are unstable, all that kind of good stuff. But you could see this in a park where AI is actually monitoring effectively a CCTV of the park and identifying that guest over there is dehydrated, that guest over there is struggling, that guest on the ride is not screaming because they're just having fun, they're screaming because they are physically in pain, and notify ride ops. So I think if you get to that level where, you're getting a notification on your watch or your phone to say, listen, you look dehydrated, we recommend you go and there's a free water refill over here. Not try to sell you something, just saying, look, you need water and it's free, it's over there, go get some. Or telling the ride op, look, that person in row 3, they're having issues, you need to take care of that kind of thing. I think that would be particularly powerful because nobody likes an uncomfortable experience in a park. We've all done it. I've gone to hot countries and forgotten to drink because I'm too busy powering around the park. I must get on this ride, and then I start to feel lightheaded because I'm dehydrated. So if it can monitor that kind of thing and predictively tell guests, you need to go do this, that, and the next thing, it's not a bad thing. The last one I've got is kind of already, well, they're trying to do it, let's put it that way. So that is ride photography and automatically detecting you in those images to save you having to manually select them. And the reason I say that's kind of already there is if you've been to Disney over in America, they do try and do this. It's not on every ride, and I think that's because they're still ironing out the kinks and trying to figure it all out. But effectively it will be like, hey, I think I found a picture of you on Guardians of the Galaxy, or I think I found a picture of you on Pirates of the Caribbean. It's not always accurate because Pirates, for example, many times I've come off that and it's like, hey, were you on boat A or boat B? Now, that one isn't using AI to the best of my knowledge. I think it's just using the Bluetooth on your handset, detects that you've gone past the sensor and goes, right, well, you were on the ride 2 minutes ago, so you're either this photo or this photo. The Snow White, the Seven Dwarfs Mine Train one, that I think is using facial recognition. But this is something that they tried to do over here in the UK during COVID. I know some of the parks' photography was trying to use AI and facial recognition, it was a bad time to do it because we were wearing masks and it struggled to fully identify the face. But think about it, right? I mean, if you're like me and you enjoy getting those ride photos, the current experience is you get off the ride, you go up to a screen and you find your photo, which, you know, depending on how many screens there are, that can take time. Then you have to either go up to a member of staff and request the photo, or get your phone out, punch the number in, and if for any reason you've missed that set of photos that have gone past, well, there's no way getting them past. Or the Disney experience, you go up and you tap your Magic Band to it. Like it's a manual part that is taking up a portion of your day. Now, it might only take a couple of minutes, but if you're on 20 rides throughout the day, you know, there's like an hour gone just for you standing trying to figure out where your photo is. If that's taken away from you and you can just relax and trust the system, because as I say, they're not super reliable yet, but if you're basically enjoying your day and then, you know, as you leave the park, you just get a message on your phone that says, thanks for visiting, hope you had a great visit, here's some pictures we found throughout your day. And then it's up to you whether you purchase them. Like that, it's just making it less painful and it's more streamlined. So I'd love to see that enhanced. As I say, parks are clearly experimenting with this. Don't think it's quite there yet, but the rate that AI is developing, it shouldn't be long. There's a selection of potential uses for AI in theme parks. As I said throughout there are some examples that already exist today. Some of these are maybe just kind of a little bit pie in the sky, but I do think a lot of them are viable, and I'd love to see many of these come into a park. I'd love to know your thoughts. Is there any of these that you're really interested in? That augmented reality Ghost Train one, that to me sounds fantastic. Or isn't this whole concept of AI in a theme park just absolutely terrify you and you don't want it to happen? I would love to know down below, so let's get chatting in the comments. If you have enjoyed this one, hit that like button and consider subscribing. I've been Chris, you've been watching Coaster Dad. See you in the next one. Adios.